Welcome back to our ongoing series on art investment. In this chapter, we're diving into Chapter 8, Art as a Global Market. If you thought that art was just a local or national commodity, think again. The art market today is a global phenomenon. Art doesn't just cross borders. It's shaping global economies, and understanding this dynamic is key for any serious art investor. In this video, we'll explore the key factors driving the global art market, how globalization has impacted art values, and the growing influence of emerging art markets from regions like Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. We'll also look at how technology and digital platforms are making art more accessible and allowing art to be traded globally in ways that were previously unimaginable. The art market is no longer confined to the major auction houses in New York and London. Now, collectors and investors from around the world are competing for the same pieces, and this globalization has added new layers of opportunity and complexity to art investment. If you're looking to expand your art portfolio beyond your local market, or are simply curious about how the global landscape is shifting, this chapter is for you. Let's dive into how art has become one of the most international asset classes of our time. The rise of the global art market. The art market has undergone a massive transformation over the past few decades, and its globalization is one of the biggest driving forces behind this shift. Historically, art was often confined to certain cities or regions, with major centers of the market being cities like Paris, New York, and London. These cities were the heart of the art world, where wealthy collectors, galleries, and auction houses convened to make deals. However, the rise of globalization has dramatically altered this landscape. International buyers and auction houses are no longer confined to these traditional hubs. Today, art is being bought and sold across continents, and global networks of galleries and collectors are creating a much more dynamic market. The concept of the global art market is no longer abstract. It is a daily reality, with online platforms, digital sales, and international art fairs connecting buyers and sellers worldwide. For example, auction houses like Sotheby's and Christie's have expanded significantly, holding high-profile auctions in cities around the world, including Hong Kong, Shanghai, and Dubai. In fact, Asia has become a major art market powerhouse, particularly in the realms of Chinese contemporary art and traditional Chinese antiques. This shift has been driven by the growing wealth of collectors in emerging economies like China, India, and Southeast Asia. In the past, it was largely Western art. Think of iconic movements like Impressionism, Modernism, and contemporary art that dominated the art scene. But now, global interest in non-Western art, particularly Asian and African art, is on the rise. Not only are these regions creating incredible new art, but they're also making waves in the auction world with record-breaking prices for artists like Zhao Wuqi, Yao Kusama, and Ai. This shift has brought greater diversity to the market, but also greater competition. Collectors from all over the world are now bidding on the same pieces, making the global art market more dynamic and volatile. For investors, this globalization presents both opportunities and challenges as new art centers and emerging markets continue to evolve. Emerging art markets and new global hubs. While cities like New York, London, and Paris continue to dominate the global art scene, emerging art markets are gaining more attention. Collectors and investors are increasingly looking beyond the traditional art hubs to places like Hong Kong, Dubai, Mexico City, and Rio de Janeiro. Let's start with Asia. The rise of Chinese contemporary art is a perfect example of how emerging markets can change the global art landscape. China has been one of the largest players in the art market for over a decade, with auction sales in the region surpassing traditional Western markets. Artists like Zhang Xiaogang, Yu Minjun, and Cai Gouqian have become household names, and their works command millions of dollars at auctions. The Hong Kong art market, in particular, has become an increasingly significant hub for both Asian and Western collectors. The region is home to a growing number of contemporary artists whose works are highly sought after, and art fairs like Art Basel Hong Kong attract collectors and galleries from across the globe. In the Middle East, Dubai has quickly become one of the most important cities for art in the region. The rise of the Dubai International Art Symposium and the establishment of the Al Circle Avenue Gallery District in the city has given the Middle East a strong foothold in the international art world. While many works of contemporary Middle Eastern art are still relatively niche, oil wealth and growing global interest have helped the region develop a more robust market. In Latin America, countries like Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina are also gaining traction. Mexican artists like Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo have long been respected, but more recently, artists like Diana Al-Hadid and George Mendes Blake have begun to attract international attention. Brazil's São Paulo Art Biennial is one of the largest and most important in the world, providing global visibility for Latin American artists. These emerging markets are reshaping the art world, creating new opportunities for investors who want to diversify their portfolios and tap into regional art scenes that are growing in prominence. However, these markets can be volatile, and the challenges of cultural understanding, authenticity verification, and market maturity remain. As more investors shift their focus toward these regions, we're seeing a new phase of the art market's globalization, where multiple art hubs are competing for a share of the global stage. The role of technology and digital platforms in the global art market. While globalization has expanded the reach of the art market, technology has been the catalyst for making the art market more accessible than ever before. In particular, the rise of online platforms and digital tools is transforming the way art is bought, sold, and experienced. Platforms like Artsy, Saatchi Art, and ArtNet are making it possible for artists, collectors, and buyers to connect in real time across vast distances. Online auction houses like Paddle 8 and Heritage Auctions are also expanding the global reach of the art market, offering everything from fine art to photography and pop culture memorabilia. These platforms allow for seamless transactions, and they've made the art world much more transparent. You can now browse thousands of pieces from across the globe, check past sale prices, and even engage in virtual auctions from the comfort of your own home. One of the most exciting developments in the art market is the growth of digital art and NFTs. Non-fungible tokens, NFTs, have created a new way for artists to sell and buyers to collect art digitally. These blockchain-based assets allow for verified ownership of digital works, and artists can sell their pieces online with a level of provenance that was previously difficult to achieve in the digital realm. Works by Beeple and CryptoPunks have made headlines to selling for millions of dollars, opening the door to a new era in art collecting. Social media platforms like Instagram and Pinterest are also playing a significant role in globalizing art. Artists can reach global audiences instantly, gaining exposure without needing to be represented by galleries or auction houses. Collectors and investors are increasingly using Instagram to discover new artists and works to add to their collections, and galleries are turning to these platforms to showcase their artists to an international audience. For investors, the growing prominence of digital platforms means that there are more opportunities to explore new art markets around the world. The access to a wide range of international artists allows investors to diversify their portfolios, buying art from markets that were previously hard to enter. In short, technology has completely revolutionized the art market, enabling it to function on a truly global scale. Online platforms and digital sales are only going to continue to grow, and the digitalization of art will create new ways to engage with art investment on a global level. The impact of globalization on art valuation. The globalization of the art market has had a profound impact on art valuation. As the market becomes more interconnected, the value of art is no longer determined by local factors, but is influenced by global demand, tastes, and competition. As more buyers and collectors from around the world enter the market, the competition for high-quality pieces has driven up prices. One of the most significant effects of globalization on art valuation is the increase in demand for emerging artists. Artists from regions like Africa, Asia, and Latin America are now gaining the international recognition they deserve, and their works are commanding higher prices at auctions and galleries. Previously, the global art market was dominated by Western artists, but now the boundaries are shifting. The success of contemporary Chinese artists, Nigerian painters, and Brazilian sculptors has demonstrated that non-Western art is valuable and sought after by collectors worldwide. Globalization has also created a more competitive auction environment. As buyers from different countries compete for the same pieces, auction houses have seen record-breaking prices. For instance, contemporary art from Asia has driven some of the highest prices ever seen at auctions in Hong Kong and Shanghai. The growing affluence of countries like China and India has created new sources of wealth in art investment, and this influx of capital has raised the value of art coming from these regions. But with these opportunities come risks. The global art market is volatile and it's often driven by speculation. For example, if a particular artist becomes a global sensation, prices for their work can spike, only to fall just as quickly if that interest wanes. Similarly, trends in art movements can shift rapidly, which means that pieces once considered valuable may lose their worth. Understanding these dynamics is essential for art investors looking to make informed decisions in a global market. The growth of new art centers and the influx of international buyers mean that you have to be more aware than ever of global trends, emerging artists, and the market forces that shape art valuation. If you found this video informative, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with others who are interested in learning more about art investment. Drop a comment below with your thoughts, questions, or experiences. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.